There's a lot to unpack with the Sunday Roundtable, and joining us this morning, Democratic political analyst Marianne Marsh and Republican political analyst Andrew Goodrich. Great to see you guys. It's the beginning of March Madness, right? That's where we are.
Always.
Always. March 2. So let's start with Kelly Dooner. She sat in the chair. She's new to Beacon Hill. She's a new face. She's a new profile. What stood out from the conversation?
Well, she's a bright, young, new face from Taunton. You know, she handled herself very, very well. I thought she did the whole interview well. I had the one exception, which I said to her, and we said in the green room, I was like, you know, you can always do better on the tee. I mean, Phil Eng has done a remarkable job. So other than that, I thought she did well.
Andrew?
What a lovely introduction. I mean, you can tell she's so kind. She really cares about the constituents and also issues that they care about, which is infrastructure, water and sewer. It was a great intro.
All right. Well, Boston Mayor Michelle Wu, she is traveling to D.C. on Wednesday, where she'll be questioned by the House Oversight Committee about Boston's status as a so-called sanctuary city. Now, the Republican-led committee even put out this slick-looking hype video promising to hold the mayors of Boston, Chicago, Denver, and New York accountable. How do you think this is going to play out, Andrew?
She is going to be entering the lion's den, and it's going to be very difficult. What city and town has the right to violate federal law? And that's what these sanctuary cities are really doing. The last Democrat that I can think of that did that was George Wallace, and the mayors could be following with those tactics.
Well, the mayor is saying Boston's the safest major city in America, and Steve Lynch, who sits on that committee, says she has a good story to tell. What do you think?
I mean, anyone who has to do a hype video for an oversight hearing is desperate to start with. And Steve Lynch was here on the show last week, and he said it's going to be a circus. He's on the committee. It's going to be a circus. But facts actually matter. And Boston is the safest big city. It does have the lowest crime rate. It does have the lowest murder rate since 1957. And she's obeying the law. And that's what matters here. So when I think people see her testimony, facts matter to the Democrats on that committee. They won't matter to the Republicans on that committee. But she's going to make the case that every other mayor in the country wished they could make.
One of the things that Congressman Lynch did mention that is getting lost in this whole conversation is that Congress is not moving forward on any sort of immigration reform. I mean, do you think that's getting lost and will be lost at this hearing, Andrew?
I think that's going to be the start. This is the start of the conversation for them to start moving forward with some of this different legislation. So I think this is the start of the process.
Well, we could have had immigration reform last year, except Donald Trump told every Republican not to do it, and that he wanted it for an election issue. Now he has done nothing about it, but they're going to use this again as a cudgel, just like he's done nothing on eggs, beef, and every other thing.
You know that this year is a mayor election year. We're starting to see polls in the race for mayor of Boston. It is early. It's early March. Emerson College has Michelle Wu at 43%, Josh Kraft a tick under 30% at 29%. Of the 617 registered voters that were surveyed, 24% said they were undecided. That may sound like a large number, but for this time of year, it really isn't. So is it significant at this point, Marianne?
So as we said last week, and I pointed out the fact before the polls came out, anyone can get about 30%. And that's basically what Josh Kraft did in that poll. But when you look at the rest of it, it's all good news for Michelle Wu. Josh Kraft, of the 24% who are undecided, he'd have to win 22% of the 24 to win. She only needs 8. And when you look at the issues he's been using, like White Stadium.
Well, isn't that an issue?
Well, what?
With White Stadium that has teeth and feet and guts, and he's staying with it?
Well, 53% of the people who were polled in this poll support what she's doing. 57% said the city of Boston's on the right track. 57% said they like Michelle Wu. This is going to be a daunting race for Josh Kraft. Is he going to move up a bit? Sure, but this is tough.
Well, it's been what, Andrew? Almost 100 years since an incumbent has lost a mayor's race in Boston.
Right. But again, he's been in the race for about 5 minutes. No incumbent wants to be under 50%. Especially under 45%. The alarm bells should be ringing.
And this Emerson thing says 43%.
Right. The alarm bells should be going off.
Do you think that Josh Kraft should do more to introduce himself to the city, or do you think what he's doing is working?
No, he absolutely has to be getting out there much more. But again, what is Michelle Wu's great accomplishments? Everyone is still talking about, crime is the issue. The combat zone is back. These office buildings are a ghost town. She can't build enough bike paths to get out of the slump.
Well, people who live in Boston and vote don't think that way. All the big voices are always people who don't live in Boston.
Do optics play
53%.
here? I mean, she is visible on the newscast every night. And perhaps as the mayor should be, but nonetheless, she's been visible every night on the newscast.
Well, and she's starting the campaign. She knows the campaign's already started. Josh Kraft has announced she's doing that. I think the big issue, and we've talked about this for a little bit now, is that she's taking a more positive approach and has more positive ratings. Josh Kraft has chosen to introduce himself in a more negative way on issues that voters don't support.
By the way, Josh Kraft is going to be with us here on the record next week, so you can
have this conversation
listen.
again.
We'll continue then, right?
President Trump also heads to the Capitol this week. On Tuesday night, he'll speak to a joint session of Congress. Last week, he held his first full cabinet meeting, but the focus of attention was Elon Musk, who's not at all in the cabinet, definitely got a lot of airtime there. President Trump making it clear that Musk has his full support. Now, we know members of the cabinet have gripes with Musk. Will they just zip it, or is an outburst coming? What do you think, Andrew?
I think if there's one thing we can count on is that something very unpredictable will happen. So I'm counting on some sort of an outburst at some point, something very exciting, to say the least.
An outburst, maybe a falling out? I don't know. What do you think?
There's so many strong-willed folks. I think something will happen, yes.
What do you think, Marianne?
Never going to happen. Not one of them. Everyone sitting at that table knows that Donald Trump is owned by Elon Musk and Vladimir Putin. And what they want is what he's doing. And he's undermining our democracy. He's doing everything to destroy it. Putin's got more of his wish list in the last 6 weeks than he's gotten in over 20 years. So no one's going to say a word.
You think Trump and Musk can coexist? You don't think eventually the two of them are going to go banging heads?
Trump has no choice. I'm going to say it one more time. Elon Musk and Vladimir Putin own Donald Trump. And we are in the midst of a coup wrapped up in a Godfather movie. So tell me we're going to have an election in 2 years? We'll see.
We continue on the record. Stay with us.